Hello friends, I am Dr. JP Prajapati once again here to clear your doubts about milk. The question is, are dairy products associated with lifestyle diseases like hypertension and diabetes? My answer is yes, they are inversely related. Please listen to what science says from the mouth of an expert, Padma Shri Dr. V Mohan.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. V Mohan. I am chairman of Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Specialty Center and president of the Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. It gives me great pleasure to say a few words about the health benefits of dairy and also its connection to metabolic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, etc. Milk is something which is not new in our society. In ancient times itself, we know about the value of milk, and we have always revered Kamadhenu as the gift-fulfilling cow. It's actually revered as a deity, and also everybody knows about Sri Krishna and his attachment to the cow, and how he was very fond of butter. So right from mythology onwards and from very ancient times, milk has been part of our culture. Now, more recently, there have been some views, particularly by vegans and others, who say that milk and dairy are the cause of all diseases, and so many diseases are linked to dairy. Our experience and our studies have shown the exact opposite. The first evidence came from the Chennai Urban Rural Epidemiological Study, which we published in 2009, where we showed that some factors in food actually promote type 2 diabetes, while others reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. For example, rice and wheat, the carbohydrate, were the ones which increase the risk of diabetes, while the intake of fruits and vegetables and all dairy products in general reduced the risk of type 2 diabetes. This was just a chance finding in 2009, and we did not give too much importance to it. We thought it may be just a statistical artifact or something like that. But later on we started looking into the literature, and we found that there are so many studies which have shown an inverse relationship between dairy intake and all metabolic diseases, including metabolic syndrome. The term metabolic syndrome means it's a constellation of 4 or 5 metabolic abnormalities: obesity, central obesity, a low HDL cholesterol or the good cholesterol, a high triglycerides or one of the fats in the blood, of course glucose levels being elevated, diabetes, and blood pressure being elevated. If you have 2 or 3 of these together, it's called as metabolic syndrome. So there were many studies done, and then systematic reviews were done and meta-analysis was done. And consistently it showed that the total dairy intake, as well as yogurt, and in some studies even milk and others, other products like cheese and so on, were all associated with a lower risk of metabolic syndrome, with diabetes, with hypertension, and with central obesity. But most of these were cross-sectional studies. What you need is a longitudinal study. What do you mean by longitudinal study? You take a population and then follow them up for 10, 20 years. And at the onset, when you start the study, they should not have, say, diabetes or hypertension or heart disease and so on. And then 10 years later, some will develop diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, others won't develop. You go back and see what they have been eating or what exercise they've been doing and so on. And with this, you can almost come to a causal relationship between a dietary habit as well as diabetes. For example, we showed in the prospective urban rural epidemiological study, the large pure study, which is done in 21 countries across 5 continents on 150,000 individuals, followed up for 10 to 15 years in a longitudinal manner. The same people followed up for 10 to 15 years. For example, in that study we showed that rice, white rice intake is directly linked to new onset diabetes. In the same study we showed that the intake of dairy, whether it is total dairy or whether it is milk or whether it is yogurt or any other form of, and it didn't matter whether it was high fat dairy or low fat dairy. Even that didn't seem to make a difference. If anything, the high fat dairy or the high fat milk seemed to be better. And what did we find? We found that there was a lower incidence of new onset type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and metabolic syndrome. So that is a major publication of ours which we publish in the BMJ Open Diabetes Research and Care. And then the real proof of the pudding comes when you look at mortality. Now, what do people die of? And in a study like this done in 21 countries, which represents low income countries, middle income countries, and high income countries. So India is there, Pakistan is there, Bangladesh is there, China is there, Middle East is there, Canada is there, some European countries there, Africa is there. So many countries are involved in this. And what we found in that was that those who took 2 or more servings of dairy, there was a protection against mortality, against cardiovascular disease, cardiovascular mortality, and even all-cause mortality. And this was true for total dairy, it was true for milk, it was true for yogurt, and it was true for high-fat products as well. It was also true in the countries where dairy consumption was not very high, and it was also true in countries where the dairy consumption was very high. So it really didn't matter. It looked as if dairy is providing a protection. Now, such results had not been published earlier, and this was published in one of the most prestigious journals in the world, Lancet. In the main Lancet, it was published, and these findings actually conclusively kind of prove that milk and dairy products are actually good for your health. They reduce cardiovascular disease, they reduce diabetes, they reduce obesity, and they help you to live longer. So our own findings, and now supported by findings from Harvard Public School, which is considered the mecca of nutrition in the whole world, they also find the similar findings. What is the drawback of taking milk? Well, some people are milk intolerant. We call it as lactose intolerant. So if they are lactose intolerant, then they cannot take milk. Of course, you can take soy milk or almond milk and so on, but they're really not milk as such. If you are intolerant to milk, then you should avoid milk. Otherwise, you'll get bloating of the stomach and nothing serious, but you may get stomach pain, diarrhea, and so on. In some cases, very small number of cases, there could be allergies to milk. For example, you can develop acne or some eczemas, skin reactions. These are very rare, and such people obviously have to avoid the milk. Sometimes this milk intolerance, lactose intolerance, as well as the allergies can go away after some time. There are a few studies which suggest that if you take too much of milk, more than 3 or 4 glasses per day, then there is a small increase in risk of prostate cancer in men and osteoporosis and fractures in women. Actually, milk helps the bone strength, it helps teeth, bone development, gives you strong bones, gives you good muscle, good circulation. So many benefits of milk are there. But if you overdo it, then it may not be good in some cases. It may not be for everyone. So my concluding message is, please promote milk, because milk is a very good source of protein. In India, people are vegetarian, and vegetarians normally find it very difficult to get protein. Milk gives you excellent calcium. It gives you potassium, it gives you protein, it gives you riboflavin, and many other, phosphorus and many other things. And therefore, milk is an essential item for you to take, and not just milk. Yogurt is also very good, because yogurt also improves your gut microbiota. Cheese and other dairy products can also be taken. So try to include a glass of milk for all children and for all adults in India. I think a glass of milk is very good. And in addition, taking yogurt, say twice a day with your meals, and whenever possible, some cheese and so on. These are very healthy, and I believe that they will actually help to prevent diabetes, control diabetes better, and to prevent cardiovascular disease, and indeed even mortality.